Wow. Alrighty, so what is up? What is Gucci? Holy hicka. It was only yesterday that I learned how to use this mic. And today, here we are creating this freaking podcast that I always wanted to create. Actually, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to actually call this a podcast because to me, the way that I define podcast is just purely audio, and it can span from like 20 minutes on to like an hour. And I'm actually not too sure in how long this podcast is actually going to take. So, in saying that, we're just going to go with the flow and see where this goes. Not going to lie, I'm pretty freaking nervous because I already threw it out to the universe that I wanted to do this. But it's all in good timing too. As you know, we're all in lockdown at the moment. For those watching from overseas, from outside of New Zealand has been in a 2-week lockdown so far, and so we've got another 2 weeks for level 4 lockdown, and we're still at home doing our own shit. And I guess what better way to open up this whole lockdown with a podcast. I've had this mic for like a year, man. And it's been sitting in my room, and I've had cameras sitting in my room, and I'm just like, bro, we need to do something, man. And so here we are. Yeah, I guess for the 99% of people who are watching this right now or listening in, who don't know me, my name is benjitimu. I am a filmmaker, storyteller, specifically focusing in Indigenous storytelling. And yeah, I'm relatively new, I guess, in the media. I don't see myself as somebody who's like a pro, you know what I mean? But I see myself as a person who is constantly learning from other people, or whether that's online or through other people in conversation and stuff. And I guess, like, you know, in my own journey of trying to find myself and figure out what I'm about, because I mean, I'm 26 at the moment, and it's just like you feel like you're invincible. I mean, I have a master's degree in architecture. I've got a business with a couple of mates, and you know, it just feels like I've got everything sussed out now. But when in actual fact, I feel like the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know a lot of shit. And so that's a little bit scary and daunting, and it's a brave conversation to have with yourself, especially because you kind of, you know, like I said, you feel like you're invincible, especially as a 26-year-old navigating through the world of adversity as well. And I guess when you overcome a lot of the adversities, you feel like nothing can stop you. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but that's a really good thing to have. But it's also what comes with that is a realization that there's a lot of stuff that I don't know. I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but anyways, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not some sort of professional that knows a lot about colonization, decolonization, you know, issues to do with discrimination. I just feel like 2% or 5% within the journey of like understanding that. And so, like, for me, I only just heard of the freaking red colonization maybe like 4 years ago. I may have heard it in social studies and stuff, but it wasn't something that I guess understood or could empathize with, because I guess, like, as a young kid, as a young male especially, you don't see the effects that it has directly to yourself. And so I get, okay, we're gonna go deep, man, but I get how white people don't understand what white privilege is, and I get how men don't understand the world of the patriarchy, right? Or the patriarch. We are blinded by our comfort, We are blinded by our way that we've been living, and I guess a lack of empathy and a lack of self-awareness as well. And when I talk about self-awareness, I'm not talking about like knowing who you are. I'm talking about knowing who you are within the context of your environment, of where you are placed in society in general. Coming off from that, I grew a lot of interest in reclaiming the narrative, as a theme, or as a pillar into my journey as a filmmaker, as a storyteller. And from there, I started looking into colonization, and then you look at words like imperialism, and you're like, what the fuck does imperialism mean? What does colonization mean? And then from the word colonization, you come to words like decolonization. You're like, all this fucking words really just doesn't make sense to me. And so, when I delved them a little bit more deeper, I saw this. I looked up on Google like we all do, and decolonization. This is what it means on Google, literally. So decolonizing is the examining of our society, which includes accountability, understanding, and the reinsertion of experiences that have been sidelined in the process of colonial domination. Shit, this is a long definition. It means accepting that colonial forces are oppressive. Now that, to me, is just like fucking a whole lot of words just thrown in a sentence, to make people feel really, really guilty about themselves. And for me, like in retrospect, looking at that, I was like, oh fuck, like I'm just gonna zone out because first of all, you hit me with accountability. Like, fuck, I feel like I'm the villain here now. Even though I'm not white. Colonial domination, and the word oppressed or oppressive. I guess what really got my attention was the word reinsertion of experiences that have been sidelined in the process of colonial domination. Kind of sounds like I see that on top of my head, but I'm reading it from my laptop. And that was really important because as a filmmaker, right? So I'm always looking at this topic or these topics through my point of view. So I would just like to stress it out that I might be wrong. I probably am wrong because I always like to bots it and just say what's on my mind all the fucking time. But I guess I'm super forgiving of myself. Okay, so to me, colonization is basically, so if you were to have your house, and that's your house, your whare, your fale, and you're over there, right? You're in your corner. I've got my house in my corner. And so you'd think that we would be happy, right? Well, to me, colonization is actually looking at your house and going, oh yeah, I want that house too. And so you go over and you kick those motherfuckers out of the house and you go, this is my house, bitch. Yeah, there's no but. That's literally what colonization is to me. It's just like kicking other motherfuckers out because you want that power over them. And so I guess, with colonization, I didn't realize how broad the term colonization bled into, like in the sense of like it bled into different spaces. And you can't deny that colonization is a system that we predominantly live in. And let me just expand a little bit more on that. So let's take the division of Samoa, for example, right? As some of us know, I'm assuming most of us know, Samoa was split into two different countries, or I guess districts. You've got American Samoa in the east, and then you've got Western Samoa on the west. And you know what the funny thing is, man? Like I've been to Samoa like a lot of times. I guess like maybe like 6 times, I guess. And I didn't realize how close American Samoa was to us. Like, it is literally like down the road. Growing up, I had seen American Samoa as a completely different place in the Pacific. I mean, I wouldn't even bat an eye if I found out that American Samoa was like in the Indian Ocean, you know what I mean? And so it wasn't until my new profound fond of colonization that I figured out that it was like just on the other side. Adding on to that, you know, so basically this is basically what happened in Samoa, right? Do you remember the story that I was talking about, that guy who wanted the other house? Except there's 2 people that want that house. And so you can imagine, I think it was around like 1880s or some shit, Samoa was like one big country, American Samoa and Western Samoa. And during, you know, the Colonial Times, the United States of America and Germany, and I'm pretty sure New Zealand was in it as well, or maybe they came a little bit later. But anyways, Germany and America basically just saw this piece of land like it was their piece of ass that they could take, right? And then they just said, hey, let's just divide it, hey, piece it out. You take that part and I'll take this part. And so Germany ended up taking Western Samoa, America ended up taking American Samoa, and then it divvied us like that. What I'm getting at is if you think about the effects of colonization, today, 100 years later, you can, basically what I'm saying is Samoa is not together anymore. They see themselves as two different people. And like, it's all like, I don't mind that. It's just really sad to see, you know, we've had the same ancestors for literally like thousands of years, and then 100 years ago this white guy just wanted to divide us, give us different flags, give us different rules, and after 100 years it's like it's 2 different countries, and it's just fucking insane. That to me blows my fucking mind, especially, you know, being Samoan as well. And I guess for me, like, I mean, yeah, we can move forward and stuff, but I think it's really important if we acknowledge that, and if we're taught that part of the history growing up, that we're a split because some motherfuckers wanted to claim us, you know what I mean? When we talk about effects of colonization, it's more than just the land, you know, like, you lose the culture, you lose the status, you lose the indigenous practices, you lose your power and you lose your freedom. Basically, that's how I feel what colonization has done. And so when we think about the definition of decolonization, I think what's really important, what we need to do is to acknowledge that first and foremost, and then see how we can reclaim that. And what that looks like is in the form of so many different manifestations. I mean, that could be, for me, I've grown up staunch Catholic, whole family is Catholic. I guess what I'm struggling with in this space is the overlap of colonization. And I've had a lot of discussions with people, you know, open discussions around what it looks like to be an indigenous Christian. And I'm going to be honest and say that I'm not convinced, because I guess a lot of it, the energy comes down to me being hurt, you know, like when you think of how they impose a lot of this stuff, and for me it's like moving forward, and seeing the mirror, right? And like that to me is in contrary of what decolonization is, you know what I mean? Like decolonization to me should mean like dismiss everything to do with colonization, when in fact I think that does a disservice to your learning process, and so it's unfair to dismiss Christianity, because you feel like, because of where it came from as well, and how it was like pretty much imposed onto us. And yes, you know, we did have our gods and stuff before. Yeah, I really need to do a little bit more research around that, and in terms of what that looks like, or what that looked like. I guess a little bit more in terms of like its transition into Christianity. I'm not going to delve deep into too much of that, but I guess another thing that I really wanted to focus on is like the exploitation of land. You know, like we all know what the value of land is these days. It's ridiculously fucking expensive. You can't even own a piece of land in Auckland these days, because holy heck. I mean, I'm like, you struggle like fucking as it is trying to bloody live here. But I guess, you know, when it comes to land, you could say that white people had seen it a little bit more differently than we did. We saw land as a spiritual place. The whenua, the whangua, and white people had seen it as resources. You know, as much as I want to delve into, you know, the effects of colonization and like, you know, just the facts, just pure facts, and like the diseases that had come through over shores and pretty much slaughtered a lot of indigenous people in general, especially the influenza in Sāmoa. Like, fuck, that was crazy, man. The magnitude of that particular pandemic, I honestly don't know if we could ever like match that, even if we fucking wanted to. And so moving forward, I mean, if you want to learn more about colonization, just search up the effects of colonization. I think like we can all agree that a lot of bad stuff had happened, but I think what really surprises me is that there is a debate around if colonization was bad, like ultimately, and I'm like, fuck that. Like that doesn't even deserve a discussion. Full stop. Like colonization is bad, and yes, you know, people always argue like, oh, put your phone down then, because this is like an effect. I'm like, shut the fuck up. We've been programmed to live in a world of colonization. You cannot dismiss our argument by saying, put that, like, you know, everything that you do, like, stop doing it, because that's fucking unfair. That's like training a dog for like fucking maybe that's a bad example. I'm gonna use it anyways. It's like training a dog to like do one thing for like 100 years and then just like stripping the liberty, decommissioning the brain. You can't, you know, like, do you get what I'm saying? Yeah, okay, you guys get what I'm saying. But what we can do better as kaitiaki, you know, guardians of our land, guardians of our whānau, of our ainga, is we can acknowledge it and educate our children around colonization. What does that look like? Okay. Oh yes, big one. This is literally like the thing that every person should be doing, is deploying empathy. Empathy, mate. I see so many comments around Maori are so lazy, they're on the dole, like fucking useless parents who's, like all this real derogatory shit. I just think it's a fucking load of bullshit. And it's unfair. It's super unfair. I'm only speaking through my experiences. I mean, like, I've seen it everywhere. We really need to think around, why is it that those families feel like that? Or sorry, not like that. Why is it that there is a lot of dysfunction in, like, for example, Maori families in Aotearoa? And if you were to do your research, it's actually a very, very common thing that happens in indigenous communities. Very freaking common. Around, they get a bad rap, pretty much. And it's not a coincidence. It's directly from colonization. And I had a really interesting discussion with somebody, who thought it was good to speak on how much of that was affected by colonization, and how much is it a personal responsibility. That deserves to be sort of picked apart a little, because there's one side to it, one side of the coin, which is like, everyone makes their decisions, and I think that's fair. I think that's fair to say that, you're the one that wanted to do whatever it is. But then the other side of the coin is like, are we addressing intergenerational trauma, intergenerational programming of that dynamic, right? And I mean, it's not that deep. It's just basically asking if we're deploying enough empathy. And so I guess that's something that I really wanted to leave here, is when thinking of the colonization, let's try and see both sides of the coin, which is understanding the effects of colonization. It's an intense conversation, and I see how it can be easily fucking, I don't want to talk about this shit because it don't affect me. And yeah, that's fair enough, bruh. Go do your shit. Go live like a fucking guy. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm kind of not kidding, but yeah, I guess, you know what? Thank you for listening in. I have no idea how this is gonna go. I know that there's a lot of shit that I haven't addressed, and I'm sorry, but let me know what you think, man. Honestly, I'm down to learn. And this is one thing that I love to do. I always love disapproving the things that I believe in, or the things that I inherently, or that's in my fucking DNA. You know what I mean? Tell me I'm wrong. It's gonna be a bit of an ego hit, but don't be a dick about it. You know what I mean? Be fucking kind, especially when we're on this lockdown, dog. Shit. But anyways, I hope you guys have a really good day. Peace. And hopefully we'll do this again. Alright. Peace out, brass.